Beautiful. Good evening. Welcome to Prime Testimony Channel. I first of all want to say a very big thank you for continually watching my videos and giving your suggestions and contributions. Tonight's topic is titled Love Choices. You know, the tradition of investigating the background of a prospective husband or wife had been practiced by our ancestors and great-grandparents until our generation. In times past, most parents looked for wives for their sons who were of age and, wanted to get married. As time went on, this tradition has changed, and now the young men and the women themselves look for their own husbands and wives. The family elders inquire to ensure that the new person coming to marry their family member is not from a family with a history of any contagious sickness, someone having a history of madness, or belief of the fact that the person is from a cursed family. In fact, in some families, if a member of a particular family had been imprisoned as a result of murder, that became a scar on that particular family, and for that matter, no eligible bachelor or spinster would want to marry from that family. Another consideration was the fact that some also avoided marrying from a particular community or area with whom either of the young person's community had had an ancestral squabbles dating back from centuries. But by these days, this stance is being softened due to Christian religion, which actually promotes or preaches about forgiveness. One reason for such investigation is so that the new family would establish and confirm that the man or woman actually come from that particular town and also belong to that particular family he claims to be part of. Usually it is not difficult if they are all from the same community, but where either of them come from a different community, I think they strengthen the investigation to get a lot of information about the new person coming to marry in their family. In fact, this is done so that the spouse will know and follow up with family members should a sudden ill health or sickness attack the spouse, or in the case of his or her demise, they will be able to take him home for a peaceful burial as custom demands. In some cases, the distance of the hometown of the would-be spouse was also considered by some families. In fact, there's an Akan song that goes this way, that Okwantin wari minko, Okwantin wari minko, Semiyame kona sembis mechra meyeden, Semiyame kona sembis mechra meyeden mati, Okwantin wari minko, Sembis mechra meyeden mati. It means, the song is interpreted this way, that I would not want to engage myself with a kind of marriage where I have to travel to a very far distance. Because when I travel and I go and live with the new husband or the new wife, and something happens in my hometown, how can I get to know? And these songs are old traditional songs that have been composed because in those times, the only means of transport was by walking. So there were no vehicles. That is why they felt that marrying somebody from a very long distance, it would be a problem. Yeah, so, but there are lessons in there, to learn. Initial investigation also offer an opportunity for both families to know and interact with the future in-laws as they observe each other critically. They also inquire their background to know what their beliefs and what their values are. Investigations are also done to ensure the children from the future union will not produce children who are vagabonds. So the investigations that are done, they have various reasons why these things are done. It's not a matter of just meeting the man or the woman and saying that you are going to get married. Our elders or our family, our parents also ensure they also investigate the background of a man or woman who is coming to marry, in case the person has a hidden records hiding somewhere which might destroy the marriage in future. Presently, families use various forms of investigation, including sometimes making inquiries from schoolmates, sometimes from your workmates, your church members, the association, the man or the woman that want to marry belongs to. Sometimes they do from acquaintances. Sometimes some even go and talk to your landlords, how well they know you ever since you went to rent the apartment. Some get information from police records and even from the social media. Yes, social media, they do these days. That is why it is important for every young person to be very careful the kind of content you put in social media. Let me share this story with you. A man rejected a young, handsome and hardworking guy who had fallen in love with a daughter and wanted to get married to her. And what is the reason? The man said that the gentleman's outward look does not match what he says. And why was the man saying that? Apparently, the man had followed the activities of the guy in social media and read most contents. So has read most of his comments the guy was making on other people's, posts. And according to the man, almost always he was using insulting words and profane words. Although the daughter, for whatever reason, hid their secret relationship from their parents until it was about a year for them to get married before she brought and introduced them to the family. But the father already suspected and knew about it. Apparently, because the man was suspecting, he checked the guy's background for about 2 years and was just waiting. So when the daughter introduced him, he called the daughter and told him that he would not agree and explained why he felt the gentleman was not good for him. But the daughter, with support of the mother and the maternal uncles, went ahead and the guy got married to her, although the father refused. Unfortunately for this young lady, right from the beginning of the marriage, she became a victim of domestic violence. The man would be beating him and as if to confirm what the father was saying. And the father has since kept quiet and he doesn't even want to say anything because he said she disobeyed him, so she should live with it. The kind of friends that people associate with is something that family members or parents also look at. There is this Akan, what's the name, proverb that says extra, and it means that show me your friend and I'll show you your character. So among other ways of investigating the background of prospective spouses, you look at the kind of friends that the gentleman or the woman also associate with and make some form of, conclusions. You look at the educational level, what one does for a living. All these are also considered. In fact, in some families, the father would ask for one-on-one interview with the young man. And on few occasions, I've heard some women also do that. Sometimes it is done informally, and the young man may not even realize that he's being investigated. Sometimes the piece of information elicited from the man on his regular visit to the lady's house are strung together to form an opinion about him. But in some churches in Ghana, it is arranged for the man to meet with the marriage committee. Usually it's made up of counselors. In some cases where they have a lawyer, they may even include him. And then they will form a panel, and the man will go for an interview to ascertain his background, and his readiness and level of maturity and preparedness for marriage. Although it is not admitted openly, there's one particular Pentecostal church in Africa that would usually pay an unannounced visit. They will send people to pay unannounced visit to the man's home under the pretext of, oh, we are just passing and we just wanted to say hello. But they went there ostensibly to cross-check some of the information the man might have provided in response to some of the questions the marriage committee that had met him earlier might have inquired or asked. There have been instances the committee had recommended to some ladies or some men not to go ahead with their planned marriage because of certain information which they had later obtained that presupposed that either of them was hiding something from the other. But if after that counsel, that suggestion, you still think you love each other, the two of them think they love each other, they will not prevent you from marrying. However, they will let you know the possible consequences. All these investigations are done in order to ensure the security and happiness of the future couple. So I think it is not something bad, but at least for their good. That is why investigations are usually done thoroughly before marriages are contracted. In fact, there have been instances where some people have contracted marriages starting on the wrong foot. And let's find out what are some of the experiences families want to avoid, for which reason they spend months and sometimes years investigating the background of someone who is coming to marry their daughter or their son is getting married to. A man might have called, or some men sometimes call friends and engage some elderly acquaintances and portray them to the woman's family as that, oh, these are all my own family members, and they will go and then they do marriage ceremony, everything, without the man's real family members knowing. And usually they do that when they have something to hide. Sometimes a man who already has a wife travels to live in and work in another part of the country and refuses to disclose that he is already engaged with another woman and goes to marry again secretly. Some also, disclose that they already have children. And usually it may come out some years after, and it brings a whole lot of problems. There are other people too who also don't travel to their hometown. They never do that throughout their working life in their cities. So usually when the spouse dies, and then the messages are sent to the community where the deceased hails from, when the news get to them, it becomes litigation between the two families. And sometimes end up in the traditional Ahimfie court, and it is not pleasant. Sometimes even they end up making the surviving spouse pay a huge penalty. Sometimes they collect drinks, schnapps. Sometimes they slaughter goats, and sometimes they pay money, to do those traditional things as required by the chief who might have arbitrated the case. For such people that never travel home, they may also lose substantial part of their properties. The family, before the family gets to know if the surviving spouse and the deceased. So if the surviving spouse is dishonest and the deceased also did not leave any will before passing on. Some ladies whose biological fathers also did not take care of them refuse to disclose the whereabouts of their real or their biological father, and the mother may insist she and her family take the dowry instead, because after all, she was the one who took care of. Even the Bible tells us that when you are going to get married, your father, it's your father that received the dowry. But you being a man who is going to marry, ensure that you don't involve yourself in the squabbles the family already have. For such a complex issue, the man, all you can do is to facilitate, a meeting so that this issue will be discussed and then resolved amicably before the day you get married. One unfortunate thing is that some ungrateful stepchildren also ignore all that their stepfathers or their stepmothers have done in raising them up. Sometimes some go ahead with their marriage plans with the biological father living somewhere or biological mother living somewhere who abandoned them and never took care of them without saying a word to the stepdad or stepfather who had shouldered all their responsibilities, including their education. They get to know. These step parents sometimes get to know during the last minute. And such is a delicate issue that should be discussed and agreed upon before the marriage day. For others too, it is not that they are not grateful, but they take the issue for granted and then take certain steps that usually bring confusion during the wedding day. Before I conclude, let me ask some questions. Let's ask ourselves certain questions. How well do you know the man you are dating or the man you've dated? Did you take time to at least investigate about him or her? Did you check or get help from the public records in case you met him through someone or even in the social media? Do you consider background checks important? There are surprises in marriages, but it takes two to work it out. Please listen to me. Whether your future children and grandchildren will play draft on the trees or play golf on a golf course depends upon your choices today, especially those who are about to make the choices. Some have already made the choices. Zamra kan there. Sebi o mezobu mezema wana watu dam non to yenyaze bon oyi. Na mresem de bube de bi umba wobetena mpankwa aduase watu dam ana de wobobo golf no. Or the kind of choice I make this is in choosing a life partner or you're very, very careful. You may not always get it right, but at least you can minimize the risk if you open your eyes and observe critically. As much as possible, pray. Pray to God, but remember to apply the wisdom God has already given you and find out about your mistakes and make efforts to correct them rather than attributing every unpleasant life experience to the devil as an African. I believe even those who killed the 1 million Jews during the Second World War may have been forgiven by God if they genuinely repented and they are progressing in life. So stop attributing everything to ancestral curses, which is crippling your ability to reason and move forward in life, because such deception is someone's profitable business. Slavery has come and gone with its concomitant problems, but we can still succeed if we think right, act right, and love one another. The development of every nation depends upon the individual family unit. So take your time to select your life partner so you can have some level of peace of mind to contribute to development. May God open our eyes and understand the times like the sons of Issachar. Please comment and subscribe to this channel and share the message with friends. This is Prime Testimony Channel, reminding Africans of our traditions and redefining norms and concepts to propel us in making this world a better place to live. Thanks for listening. This is your beloved friend, Ato Brente Shen. Good night.